For more on the peace plan, I'm joined now by Debra Shushan. She is the Director of Government Affairs for the advocacy group J Street here in Washington. One political analyst in Egypt, since we were just there, described this deal of the century this way: this is an annexation plan, not a peace plan. We're getting a lot of negative reactions. Surprised at all?
I'm not surprised at all, and in fact, I could not agree more with that statement. This should not be referred to as a peace plan. Peace sham, if you may, if you must, is fine, but no, this is absolutely a plan for annexation, and it's no wonder that we're hearing disparagement. We should hear even more of it throughout the Middle East and the Arab world, and of course, extremely negative reactions by Palestinians. But I think one thing that I hope we'll talk about as well is that this plan is actually quite bad for Israel, too.
Well, let me ask you about we can get into that in just a second, but I want to touch on something else. Another person acknowledged this as being outrageous, can't be taken seriously, and they said it was basically a stunt. You've got two political leaders both dealing with crises in their own countries, a chance for them to get out in front and kind of talk to their domestic audiences. Do you think that's part of this as well?
Of course it's part of it. I think, so there are two pieces here that we should be thinking about. One is the timing. The timing absolutely is political, right? You have a U.S. president, of course, is in the process of being impeached. You have an Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, against whom indictments were just formally filed yesterday, on the very same day that he and Trump walked down the aisle together like they were getting married or something to announce this sham of an annexation plan. So obviously, on the one hand, the timing is designed to distract from the corruption of these two leaders and what's happening to them politically in their countries. But on the other hand, this is an extremely ideological plan that has been in the works for 3 years, put together chiefly by three men, all with deep ties to the settler movement, three American men with deep ties to the settler movement, in concert with most right-wing elements in Israel. And what they, especially Ambassador David Friedman, have dreamed of doing for years is exactly what we see now, is to completely obstruct the possibility of a real two-state solution from ever coming into place and enable Israel to annex as much of the West Bank as it can, and amazingly here, all of the settlements, including the outposts that are illegal under Israeli law. I mean, so on the one hand, you have the political aspect, and on the other hand, you have the fulfillment of this ideological dream.
You said this is bad for Israel as well, so pull on that thread for us. Why do you see that?
Well, as an American Jew with progressive values, I see it as terrible that Israel would be put in the position of being a perpetual occupier of another people, of millions of people, millions of Palestinians who are going to live under permanent occupation, who will have their land annexed, who will live in tiny little enclaves that are not contiguous, and somehow the administration is basically going to take the terrible status quo and call that a state, which is an absolute sham. I don't think that's good for Israel. I don't think it's good for Israel in terms of its security either. I mean, if you look at the Israeli security establishment, they have been warning against exactly this kind of profound, wide annexation that we're going to see here, because the Israeli military can't defend the sort of borders that are going to be established against all of these settlements, some of which will be deep inside Palestinian territory. It's just, you know, from every conceivable standpoint, I think, and the way that Israel will now be regarded within the international community, it's a terrible thing for Israel. And I think it's, you know, could very well be problematic for U.S.-Israeli relations as well. Very close relations with the United States. The Israeli government has always recognized as a strategic asset, especially close relations with the two major parties, Republicans and Democrats. I think this alliance between Netanyahu and Trump could put that in danger, and that's also very much not in Israel's interest.
Well, we'll be watching all of it. Thanks so much for your analysis. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Mike. Thanks.